Time for our business update. I'm joined here by Brian Quinn, starting with some troubling figures for the French economy.
Just the regular business here. Well, France's most recent unemployment figures are out. It's not a pretty sight, with a significant rise in the number of job seekers recorded for July. Nearly 35,000 people joined the ranks of the unemployed last month, for a rise of a full percent. France has recently seen some encouraging dips in its stubborn unemployment rate, but July's bump puts it on track for a yearly rise of 0.1%. Now, over 3.5 million people are now seeking work in the country. All sectors saw a rise in July. Youth unemployment is back on the climb at nearly 3% more, with jobless seniors and the long-term unemployed also increasing. Now, the figures are being attributed in part to expiring short-term job contracts and training programs. Those numbers come at a delicate time for the Macron administration as he seeks to institute labor market reforms in France. Now, the overall economic situation here is actually improving. Growth projected at 1.6% for the coming year. Some economists, however, saying that's not enough to fix the country's chronic unemployment problem.
We're still in a fairly fragile situation. We can't start thinking that everything is fixed, that this growth is going to allow us to return easily to full employment. Even if we are seeing good indicators, clearly these indicators aren't enough to give us a significant durable drop in unemployment.
All right, turning now to the U.S., where a public spat between Donald Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is leading to concerns about the U.S.'s ability to pay its government debt.
Well, the U.S. needs to raise its debt ceiling. That's the legal limit on how much the government can borrow in order to avoid defaulting on its national debt. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says the government could run out of money as soon as September 29th. That's spooking ratings agencies, especially as Donald Trump is blaming Mitch McConnell and other top Republicans for failing to get it done already. Julia Kim reports.
A looming crisis is casting a shadow on Capitol Hill. By the end of September, the government will no longer be able to cover its bills on time. And by sometime in October, the US Treasury will run out of cash. That's because Congress still hasn't passed legislation to increase the $19.8 trillion debt ceiling, which is the legal amount the Treasury can borrow to pay the government's bills on time. Those include Social Security benefits, military salaries, tax refunds, and paying the interest on the national debt. President Trump has called the situation a mess. He blames Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, the House Speaker, for not attaching the debt ceiling legislation to a popular bill on veterans' benefits. But officials have downplayed concerns of a potential default.
This is about paying the bills that we already racked up, making sure we pay our debts. We pay our debts in this country, we will continue to do so. So I'm not worried that that's not going to get done, because it's going to get done.
Credit ratings agencies like Fitch and Moody's have already warned that they would downgrade the US's AAA rating unless the government raised the debt limit in a timely manner. Lawmakers will push to increase the debt ceiling when Congress returns from recess on the 5th of September.
Markets here in Europe just opening up for the trading day. How are they doing so far?
Major indexes opening slightly higher in Europe as investors look ahead to remarks from a meeting of central bankers in Wyoming today, most expecting stimulus programs to stay in place for the near future. The CAC 40 here in Paris up under 0.1% as the most recent consumer confidence figures show a 1-point drop for August. Frankfurt DAX a little bit higher as new figures released Friday show strong growth in German consumer spending. Asian indexes mostly gaining Friday. The Nikkei in Japan up around 0.6 as automakers and financials posted gains. South Korea's Kospi index staying above water as Samsung's chief gets 5 years in jail. Hong Kong's Hang Seng up over 1% on some strong corporate earnings reports there. Let's take a look at some more of today's top business headlines. Qantas has posted its second highest yearly profit ever. Australia's largest airline said pre-tax profits for the year ending in June reached 1.4 billion Australian dollars. Cost cutting and a strong domestic market are being credited for those results. Qantas's top profits ever came the previous year. SoftBank is investing nearly $4.5 billion into WeWork. The Japanese telecom giant will buy a $3 billion stake in the co-working startup's U.S. operations after an already announced $1.4 billion investment to grow WeWork in Asia. WeWork sublets rented office space to freelancers and companies. It has 10 million square feet of offices in 16 countries.
Finally, for business, funerals are expensive, but Buddhist funerals in Japan may now have a cost-cutting option.
Yes, the end-of-life industry exposition has been underway this way in Tokyo. A festive occasion, no doubt. We see colorful coffins on display here. One of them coming up actually has a QR code built into it that you scan to display a photo album of the deceased. That's nice. Well, the star of the show, anyway, Pepper, the humanoid robot, been programmed to perform Buddhist funeral rituals, banging a drum and gong while chanting traditional sutras. Somewhat robotic, I suppose that's only natural. The average funeral in Japan costs the equivalent of around 20,000 euros, with a human priest accounting for around 1,700 of that price. Pepper will do the job for just $350, and he will live stream it to your relatives to boot. Technology in the funeral industry, obviously pushing in a big way.
Robots taking over every job.
Yeah.
We're on the clock, Brian. Brian Quinn with the roundup of the business news. Time to take a look at what's